It's almost embarrassing at this point with how many videos I start by saying this class's talents are amazing, but the hunter's talents they're amazing. There genuinely isn't a bad class when it comes to talent selection, and whilst depending on what spec you play, the talents can sometimes seem a little bit one-sided, as in, well, this for survival is the best talent, or this for beast mastery is the best talent. Most of the times in terms of DPS, they're so close that you can actually use whichever talent you prefer to play with. So if you haven't guessed it by the fact that the thumbnail's got a hunter on it, the title says Hunter Talents, and I'm here talking about Hunter. Today, we're going to talk about Hunter, specifically the talents that we're looking at and working through every single class, building a playlist. So if you're not a hunter and you want to know about one of the other classes, just check the playlist area on the channel and you'll be able to see if I've started on your class already. But each playlist will eventually include talents, glyphs, rotations, spec changes from Cataclysm, and so much more. Now, I'm sure by now you know that the talents change from Cataclysm into Mr. Pandaria, where now every 15 levels, starting at level 15, funny enough, you get a choice between 3 very powerful talents. Starting with your level 15 talents, you've got a choice between Post Haste, Narrow Escape, and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Chimera. Now, all of these are really movement-based and just come down to the fight that you're actually doing. But first of all, Post Haste. Your disengage frees you from all movement impairing effects and increases your movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. Needless to say, this is really nice, and on fights with heavy movement, this is probably going to be your go-to talent. And to be fair, when you're just running around in the open world questing or get on your way to level 90, you'll probably use this. Next up is Narrow Escape, and this is more for if you was kiting ads in PvE, or what I see it as is purely a PvP talent. Because what this does is when you disengage, you also activate a web trap, which encases all targets within 8 yards in sticky webs, essentially rooting them for 8 seconds. Now again, if there's a fight where you're going to be kiting ads, which I'll be honest with you, I can't really think of one in the first tier at all, but for me, this is really a PvP talent. Next up is really your other big choice when it comes to PvE, and that's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Chimera. What this does is reduces the cooldown of Disengage by 10 seconds and the cooldown of Deterrence by 60 seconds. Now, as you may or may not know, Deterrence has got 2 charges on a 3-minute recharge timer, so this will put it on a 2-minute recharge timer. This also reduces the cooldown of Disengage, meaning that goes down to a 10-second cooldown, so you can use it more frequently. And quite honestly, the choices for PvE come between Post Haste, if it's a fight where you need lots of movement, or Crouching Tiger if it's a fight where actually you can make a lot better use of getting more frequent deterrences to reduce the incoming damage. Really, out of these 3, it's very fight dependent. At level 30, you're going to get your CC abilities. So firstly, you've got Binding Shot. I've got to be honest, this is my primary go-to. I rarely use either of the others as a hunter. What this basically does is you'll fire an arrow on the floor and anyone within 5 yards of it will become tethered to that arrow. Now, if they move further than 5 yards away from it, they'll be stunned for 5 seconds, or 3 seconds in PvP. Now, this is amazing in so many situations. Let's just think gold challenge modes for now. Tanks are going to be doing massive pulls. You can fire your arrow down on the tank, which all the mobs are going to be within 5 yards of your arrow, and he can now move it when he needs to. So while the arrow's down, the tank can just move everything away from the arrow. They all become stunned. He gets a little bit of breathing room while they're all stunned. Next up is one that you'll be very familiar with, which is Wyvern Sting. It's on a 45-second cooldown, and it's just a 30-second sleep. Any damage will obviously cancel the effect, and you can only have 1 sting per hunter active on the target at a time. If you need to actually CC a specific target and you don't want to use a trap, then you can use this. But really, when you can use Freezing Trap, I don't really see the need in taking another CC ability when you could have Binding Shot instead. And then finally, Intimidation, which you'll probably already know what this is if you're a hunter at the moment. It's just a 1-minute cooldown, 3-second stun, where you command your pet to do the stun for you. Between having your pet do a stun on one target for 3 seconds, or a Binding Shot that can AoE stun everything for 5 seconds, I kind of know which one I prefer. At level 45, you're going to get your survivability talent, and I've got to be honest with you, all 3 of these situationally will be used. This will be one you do change about fairly frequently if you can be bothered, because Exhilaration on a 2-minute cooldown instantly heals you for 30% and your pet for 100% of their total health. So if your pet's about to die, this is great, just to give it a quick heal because you don't trust your healers, or obviously using it on yourself after particularly big AoE. Exhilaration will always be a solid choice and one that you might decide you want to use. One that you don't need to think about, however, and what I personally prefer because I'm very lazy, is Aspect of the Iron Hawk. This replaces your Aspect of the Hawk and basically just adds a 10% damage reduction component to it. So at all times while you're using this aspect, you'll get all the benefits that you would ordinarily get from aspect of the Hawk, and you'll get 10% damage reduction on top of it. Now, I've got to be honest with you, for most occasions, that flat 10% damage reduction is going to equate over the course of a fight to a decent amount of healing that wasn't needed. So this is a really, really solid option for one that you don't need to think about. Whereas Spirit Bond situationally, again, will be really, really useful, because while your pet's active, you and your pet will regenerate 3% total health every 2 seconds. Now again, Spirit Bond is something that's been in the game for a long, long time, so I'm sure it's nothing new to you. But there'll be certain occasions where the flat 10% damage reduction is nice, but having that constant tick-in healing every couple of seconds will actually outweigh it. Will of the Emperor, which is the last boss in Mogasham Vaults, is a prime example, because everybody is constantly taking ticking damage throughout the entire encounter. So constantly topping off yours and your pet's health throughout the entire encounter with very little overhealing from it will probably outweigh aspects of the Iron Hawk. So really you just need to understand each fight and where each one of these will be useful. Level 60 is where your talents really start, because honestly, your level 60, 75 and 90 talents are all absolute bangers. So first of all, you've got Fervor, which is a 30-second cooldown. It instantly restores 50 focus to you and your pet, and an additional 50 focus over 10 seconds. Now, using this perfectly in most situations as survival will be the best talent to use, because when we get onto other talents like a Murder of Crows, which is particularly focus heavy, Fervor really just helps smooth out your rotation and keep that focus flowing when you need it. Now, if you're going to use it wrong or forget to use it, however, it's probably not worth taking, because you do need to use this optimally and make sure you're getting the most out of it. Otherwise, something like Dire Beast or Thrill of the Hunt will take over in terms of DPS gain. So next up is Dire Beast. Now, on a 30-second cooldown, this summons a powerful wild beast to attack your target for 15 seconds. And each time the beast deals damage, you'll gain 5 focus. Now, this is absolutely amazing. Specifically for Beast Mastery, if you're going to play BM, you will always run Dire Beast, and it does a lot of damage, to be fair, whilst also giving you focus back at the same time. And probably the best option, again, when it comes to Marksman. So depending on spec, you can choose any of these 3, to be honest, which brings us to the final one being Thrill of the Hunt. Now, Thrill of the Hunt, again, is something that you'll be familiar with as a survival hunter in Cataclysm. It gives you a 30% chance when you fire a ranged attack that costs focus, or kill command to reduce the focus cost of your next 3 arcane shots or multi-shots by 20. Now, for me personally as survival, I really like Thrill of the Hunt. I think it makes the rotation feel a little bit more engaging, but again, Fervor used properly, the highest DPS gain. And then really for Beast Mastery and Marksman, you're looking for Dire Beast. Remember, what I'm saying is very opinionated. As we get reliable sims for Mr. Pandaria, we'll know exactly what is simming the best, and there could be minor differences between private servers and classics. So kind of take the recommendations with a pinch of salt until we know 100% what we're getting with accurate sims, but I'm just telling you my experience. Now at level 75, we've got Murder of Crows, Blink Strikes and Lynx Rush. Now all of these are solid talents, but in terms of single target for survival, which we're going to see far more survival hunters than anything else, a Murder of Crows is absolutely the best single target talent you can take. Now even though Murder of Crows is technically still even the highest single target DPS for Beast Mastery, you'd probably lean more towards Blink Strikes because there's no focus cost to this. And what this does is your pet's basic attack deals 50% increased damage and can now be used from 30 yards away and will instantly teleport them behind the target. Now this can be particularly useful even as marksman or survival, because if it's a fight where your pet's going to be running all over the place, this will just get it to the target quicker and start pumping. So even though it looks very much like a Beast Mastery talent, there will be times even for marksman and survival where this is better than a Murder of Crows. And then finally Lynx Rush. It's a 1.5 minute cooldown and your pet rapidly charges from target to target, attacking 9 times over 4 seconds. Each attack causes a target to bleed for X amount of damage over 15 seconds, stacking 9 times. It's a little bit like a rogue's killing spree, but for your pet. Now this is a solid talent and it's a good cooldown and it does a lot of damage, but in most situations, you're either going to be running a Murder of Crows or Blink Strikes. Like I say, I think most people you're going to see running a Murder of Crows 90% of the time. And now the final 3 talents, which one's quite underwhelming, one's for single target and one's for AoE. So it's quite a simple choice, but they're all very fun to use. Firstly, we've got Glaive Toss, which costs 15 focus on a 15-second cooldown. This is the biggest single target DPS that you're going to get from this row of talents. So On any fight where it's pure single target, this is what you want to run. In all fairness, if it's a fight where it's even 2 or 3 targets, this is still the talent that you're going to want to run. But what you do is hurl 2 glaives towards a target, dealing X amount of damage to each, and reducing their movement speed by 30%. The primary target will always take 4 times as much damage from each strike, and then the glaives will return back to you, damaging and snaring targets as they return. So it's got that nice boomerang effect. Now again, I don't see many situations where you're not going to run this, but if you're not running this, let's talk about Barrage next, and then we'll come back to Power Shot. Barrage costs 30 focus on a 30-second cooldown, and you rapidly fire a spray of shots forward over a few seconds, dealing a total of 640% weapon damage to the enemy target, and an average of 320% weapon damage to each other enemy target in front of you, and this is usable while moving. I hate that this isn't the best talent and the default talent at level 90, because I love it. I think it looks great, it feels great to use, it does loads of damage on AoE, and yeah, I'd love to just be running around with it all the time, but on AoE, this is going to be the talent that you take. On single target or a couple of targets, Glaive Toss is still going to be the one that you go for. Which finally brings us to Power Shot. Power Shot is one that you're rarely going to use unless you PvP. And even for PvP, I still prefer the slowing effect that you're going to get from using Glaive Toss. But what it does, for 15 focus on a 45-second cooldown, and it's got a cast time as well, you wind up a powerful shot which deals 600% weapon damage to the target and 300% weapon damage to all enemies in between you and the target. Now the last bit is what makes this a PvP talent, because enemies hit by Power Shot are also knocked back. So this is absolutely solid in PvP, and in all fairness, even in PvE you may find use cases for it, because it does a lot of upfront damage, just like big damage straight away. Let's think tendons on spine, where you really need to get them down and throw everything at them as quickly as possible. Something like this could actually then become better than the other two. But I think it will be such a niche situation that Glaive Toss will still probably be the default on single target and Barrage the default on AoE. And that's it. They're the Hunter talents. I think overall they are amazing. And I know I keep saying it for every spec, but I do genuinely mean it. Looking at these Hunter talents and playing around with them all in PvP, in raids, in dungeons, challenge modes, you're going to be swapping them around quite frequently. And obviously, as a Hunter, you've got the choice between 3 DPS specs, which all of them are actually pretty competitive. So obviously enjoy that in Mr. Pandaria. Now, if you enjoyed this video, there's going to be plenty more Hunter content, because I will be filling out the playlist that this is a part of, and I'll put a link in the description to the full playlist. So be sure to check that out. And if you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.